Does everything have a bright side to it? Of course. Doesn't always outweigh the negatives, but everything has a bright side to it. This makes happiness a choice. And here we say that the discipline of being happy is the ultimate discipline. With that said, welcome to the Ultimate Discipline Podcast, where we meet with people who are practitioners of this exact discipline, and we hear their cool stories of cultivating happiness through challenges in their life. I am your host, Sean Greenspan. Let's get to it. Eric, the Sauna podcast, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Good, except I need a sauna hat.
I know. I got a lot to pick from here. We got the horns. We got the pilot. I got the sauna sheriff hat. I got all sorts of them here.
I didn't
You
even
need
notice
them.
yours was the pilot.
Yeah. I mean, you need them in a sauna that gets this hot. So this is a Hume heater behind me. It's a barrel sauna that fits 6, and we can crank this baby to 230. And I mean, the reason for the sauna hats is to keep your head cooler. A lot of people think, why would you wear a hat? Like, isn't that going to make you even hotter? But it protects your head from the heat, and your head is your thermostat. So if the heat gets to your head and your head, detects you're hot, you're going to have to get out of the sauna sooner than if you covered your head so that your core body temperature can get warmer. So that's why we have this plethora of sauna hats.
I like your choice today. I like your choice, pilot.
I love the pilot one.
I totally need one. I'll tell you, this infrared sauna, mine only gets like 150.
Yep.
I love it in the house though because it is a little more of a slow bake. The one thing, of course, just like anything else, integration into your day. I need to be in here longer to get those benefits. So I often will try to do like 30 minutes of mindfulness time, but then like 30 minutes of reading, podcast, listen to a podcast usually, not produce one, but hey, it's first for everything.
Yeah, we have an infrared sauna too in our basement. I love infrared saunas. I used infrared saunas for years. I like the traditional saunas in that it's better to combine with cold exposure just because it gets so much hotter. You can do multiple rounds going from the hot to the cold. And
Yeah.
we host a lot. We have a lot of people that come over here. And if you have 6 cold bodies in an infrared sauna, it's going to drop that temperature a lot. Whereas these hot barrel saunas, it stays really, really toasty.
Awesome. What brand is that?
Sisu, I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing it wrong. Sisu, which is out of Ohio. It's Western red cedar. Um, One of my friends, Pete, started the company about 3 months ago, and I want to say they've already shipped 100 of them. They're crushing it. We love it.
That's awesome, man. And you got one in the basement. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey, so for those that might not know who you are, why am I talking to this guy in a sauna with a crazy hat?
Yeah.
Do you mind giving a little intro about yourself?
Yeah, happy to. So, 5-time Ironman. Ironman ultimately changed my life about 12, 13 years ago. And I started basing my day around health and wellness protocols. And prior to that, I was an entrepreneur building businesses. And I realized that chasing money really just was stoking my ego. And it really wasn't, soul fulfilling. So when I got into Ironman back in 2010, I realized that I was so much more just satisfied with the progress I was getting from running, biking, swimming, the mental clarity I was getting from all of that exercise. And with the exercise, I started eating healthier. I started doing recovery protocols. I started sleeping better. And all of that just piggybacked on top of each other and brought me to this place where I am now of, I work with a lot of consumer brands, helping them build their ambassador program. So I get to leverage my entrepreneurial and business experiences. And, my social media is now my personal brand, and it's sharing what I learned over that 12-year period and how I shifted my life to be based around health and wellness protocols so that I was the best version of myself and hopefully helping others become the best version of themselves through some of these things that, I've tinkered with.
Dude, I thank you for sharing that. And I really, really admire your story, Eric. I right now I'm training for some of those long races too, like you're saying, and I will say one of the beautiful things is when you're training, like my 100 miles in 17 days. So I'm kind of coming
I'm
down off the
stoked for
training
you.
now. Just a lot of saunas and
Yep.
walks. um, but it's like you train so hard, you're gonna eat right. You're gonna stretch. You're gonna sleep right. You kind of have to.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so cool to like watch you take everything you've learned and you really apply it well. That's something I like is that you really are understanding you say that you're attracting new people, business
Mhm.
opportunities, things like that. Well, that can drive the ego up to be like, hey, if I spend another 2 hours a day on business, I can make X amount more money.
Mhm.
But what I really respect, Eric, is you're like, no, like if every single day, my number one priority throughout the day is not my self care, my fitness, the way I eat, my relationships, then the other stuff is gonna fizzle away in the long run, right? Because
Mhm.
that's why it's getting attracted to you, and you live that really well. I've definitely found times over the last 2 years where it's like, business is picking up, which is great, but I'm missing playing basketball with my friends for business, which that doesn't align with who I am. Like,
Mhm.
the business can wait, 8 hours, 24 hours, or, maybe I don't need to grow that fast. So I just appreciate having you in my life, man, as like another one of those anchors.
Yeah. Well, I think we've also been able to both build businesses around the people that we want to be around. So, all of my brands that I'm working with, they're friends. Like I want them to come over here and sauna with me. I want to work out with them. I would fly to Tokyo with them, the Tokyo rule. So I think that's important in building a business that also jives with your lifestyle because human connection is so important. Human connection is one of those self-care pillars. Like we host sauna sessions every night with people and oftentimes it's new people because I want to form deep bonds with other humans that are like-minded. So I think it's cool that, you have built your business around people that you want to be around. It's not just about money, it's about developing relationships with people that you can provide value for, but you're also getting a lot of value from interacting with them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Thank you. Well, let's talk a little bit about your kind of day. I mean, I think a lot of people find it interesting, but I guess I'd like to hear kind of like what you do in like a normal day, but more about like what are the drivers? Like, why are you choosing these certain things?
Yeah.
If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, so my days are really structured and they have been dating back to 2010 when I was running multiple businesses and training 25 hours a week for Ironman. I had to figure out a way to structure my day to get it all in. And I've stuck with that. So exercise is prioritized, eating is on autopilot, sleep is on autopilot. A lot of these things occur at the same times every single day. So for me, my first session would be a training session at the gym at 8:30 in the morning. I don't set an alarm. I typically wake up around 5:45 to 6 a.m. and start my day with coffee, some water, supplements. And the first hour and a half is really planning out the day, seeing what tasks I have, what content I have to create for the day, what podcasts I have, meetings, and also planning out my training schedule. So looking at what I want to do that day for training in that first session and what I want to do for my aerobic session. So, I don't go into anything without a game plan. I really like having a game plan and structure for everything. So I head to the gym 8 o'clock. I get there at 8:30, and I've purposely picked this gym V23 because I really enjoy the energy there. I enjoy the people I'm training with. It's also helpful that all of us are content creators. So not only do we all get a great workout in, but we also are all very capable of shooting each other. So we can multitask without multitasking. So within that workout, we're all creating content for each other. And the first workout is a 90-minute session generally, and it's strength training, Olympic lifting, a series of either metcons or anaerobic intervals, and then some accessory work. So, I'm training like a CrossFit athlete, like a CrossFit Games athlete would train. After that workout, I head back home to the house and I refuel, generally either a smoothie or lately we've been doing some buffalo sausage omelets, which have been delicious.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's your
Uh,
guy. That's your guy has that buffalo, right?
yeah. Wild idea buffalo out of South Dakota. Damn, it's so good. So yeah, come home, refuel, get some protein, carbs in the system. And then I usually have my first either meeting, podcast, something important for the day. And I always do that at like you've probably noticed this, like 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 11:30 Mountain Time. That's when I usually will do a podcast, a meeting, a Zoom call, something important because it's after that first workout and my mind is firing on all cylinders. I have tremendous mental clarity from that first workout and then eating something healthy. So I usually have a window between about 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock where I'm working, I'm doing podcasts, I'm meeting with people, um, I'm doing something creative, doing something because I know my mind again is going to be just firing it on all cylinders from that first workout. And then after that, it's always aerobic exercise. So today, went on a trail run, ran right from the house. I'm a big believer in picking an environment where you thrive. So we bought a house really close to the mountains, and we can run from the house to the summit of a mountain 3 miles away. So that was today's aerobic session. It was an hour, 6 mile run. I typically don't do anything more than about 90 minutes of aerobic activity anymore. It's generally mountain biking, trail running, hiking, or rucking. Always outside, getting sunlight. Again, multitasking without multitasking. And then after that, again, it's another like hour and a half to 2 hour window of podcasts, meetings, doing something creative, creating content. Again, like using that flow state, using that mental clarity that I got from that outdoor exercise session to then fuel, another mind activity, another cognitive task. And then after that, so now we're talking around 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's generally when I'm starting my sauna cold plunge routine. And we typically invite people over. We have upwards of 6 people here every night in the sauna with us, and we'll do 2 to 3 rounds of 20 minutes in the sauna, 5 minutes in the cold. And while we're doing that, we're having really captive conversations. I attribute a lot of what I learn to my sauna sessions, just interacting with other like minded humans, learning from them. I don't watch the news, I don't read a newspaper. I do occasionally listen to podcasts, but this is generally where I'm learning is with these sauna conversations. After that, barbecue at the house 6 days a week. We're grilling here. Generally there's people over here. We're continuing those really good conversations. Um, and then I have like a 45-minute wind down routine in the evening where I'll try and learn something again. So I'll watch, YouTube. I'll try and learn something and apply it to that chapter in life that I'm writing. Have Beam Dream at night about 30 minutes before going to bed, and then hit the hay around 9:30, 10 o'clock, rinse and repeat.
Dude, I it's so intentional, that I really love it, and trying to put myself in other people's minds that might not enjoy that structure, and it might sound a little daunting, right, to like lay out that much of the day. But the way I look at it, and I'm assuming you look at it the same, but I want to hear your feedback is it's more like you're playing offense in life than defense.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, hey, this is my day. And it's not this is your day because this is what other people put on your day. It's this is the day that I've designed. So your 90-minute block for cardio, it's like, but that's what you love to do. Go run in the mountains, right? Right from the house. Like make it
Yeah.
easy. It's like it's the structure actually allows like liberation, right? Like freedom in that moment. Like when you when it's time to run, you can just run because that's what the time's allotted for.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way? That like you feel like you can really just kind of get into your activities, get into that flow state?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, ultimately, that is what my day is built around is being super present in whatever I'm doing. And there's progress with everything I do throughout the day. And I truly believe that progress is what ultimately really makes us happy, especially, us type A's that are achievement oriented. So my days are designed around progress. And it's funny that you mention, being on the offensive. Like I'm very much, dictating my day and the outcomes that are going to come from it. all the way to the extent of like, there's a reason why I typically run from the house or mountain bike from the house instead of, let's say, go skiing. Because with skiing, there might be traffic, there might be an accident. There's things that can get in the way of me being on the offensive. So I also think through like, what are things where I might become on the defensive, and I try to avoid those things so I can really continue to dictate the outcomes in my day. So yeah, I mean, I've everything is very intentional all the way down to like why I run from the house, and
Dude,
the timing of everything.
it's just funny because it's just making me think about how I had my first retreat this weekend, and it was called Rise and Flow, and it's all about intention, right, and being in the
Yeah.
flow this whole weekend. And it was we the weekend was a flow state, one of the most continuous streams of consciousness I've had in a long time.
Yep.
Um, and we really, in 4 days, left the house one time. It was a trail 2 minutes from the house to hike. Besides that, we stayed at the house. And the whole reason was like, we did we had a private chef, but we did one meal where we brought food in.
Hmm.
And I was thinking about going out, but again, like going out, like there's logistics, like whatever.
Yeah.
You're too reliant on someone else,
Yeah.
right? Um, and yeah, that I think that's a really good lesson for people to learn is like how to live their own life. It's almost like I was actually just on a call, like an ambassador call, and we brought in Jesse Itzler.
Hmm.
And Jesse Itzler was just talking about offense versus defense. He has this thing called the Big Ass Calendar Club.
Yeah.
And it's about writing the whole year out, what goals you want to do, how many date nights you want to have, when are
Yep.
those date nights, races, accomplishments, whatever. And you plan that shit out. And then, you know, yeah, there's still room for flexibility, right? Like
Hmm.
we all want room for, what pops up. But, you have to be strict about, saying yes or no to that. And, it's something that, again, I really appreciate having you around me, among others as good influences. Like that's part of the environment too. Like, you want to be around people that are just good influences.
Yeah, agree. And I mean, there's variety within that routine, just like Jesse Itzler's date night. He's probably going around to different restaurants or eating different foods on those date nights. And, same with me. There's variety within that structure of, there's different people that I'm interacting with. It's different scenery. There's a multitude of different hikes and trail runs and mountain bike rides that I can go to from the house. So I do have variety within that structure, but I know those activities, I know those types of people, I know the environments where I thrive, and it's very much designed around those with variety within them.
Great. That is cool, man. That is cool. Um, I think we've talked about this a bunch. Lifestyle design. It's almost like a playful thing. Like look at like what do we want to get out of life? What do we want days to be like? Because days, it's cliche, but days turn to weeks, turn to months,
Yeah.
turn to years, right? And I actually had someone on the podcast that was talking about a similar topic, and he was talking about how he doesn't miss maybe like a date night, right?
Yeah.
And it's very easy for someone to say, cool, like, this date night's not important, right? Like, I live with you, we can get another time. But, he goes, look, Sean, you start skipping date nights and, it turns from days to weeks to months to affecting the relationship, right?
Yep.
Um, and, that's how it really is with business and things like that. So, what do you think some tricks would be for people that might feel overwhelmed? Um, the first thing that comes to my mind is uh, I don't want to say saying no, but like being a little more cautious about what you do accept to engage in.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period of time where I wrote out all of the times when I wasn't present, what those activities were, what those environments were, the people where I wasn't present, where I was doodling, where I was wishing I was somewhere else or doing something else. And ultimately a lot of those things were because there was no progress involved with it, and I didn't feel like I was getting any value, and I didn't feel like I was giving any value. So I think it's important to write out like when you're super present. When I go mountain biking, I'm super present. When I have conversations with like minded people in the health and wellness space, entrepreneurs, creatives, you know, I, I'm super, super present with them. I'm not thinking, God damn, I wish I was spending my time with someone else. Whereas, there's other people where, nothing wrong with them, but, I might not be as present because we might not be on the same page living out a similar chapter in life. I might not be able to give them any value and they might not be able to give, me any value. So, conversations like that typically aren't flow state. So I think it's just really important to realize, like, are you present and in the moment in what you're doing, who you're around, the environment that you're in? And I mean, a lot of that too was moving out here to Denver, Colorado, where the sun is shining every single day. The mountains are begging you to go and play in them. Where, I'm from upstate New York, where it rains all the time. It's gray, very much of the culture is based around indoor entertainment. And I just didn't feel like I was thriving anymore in that environment. So I switched my environment and it was not an easy decision. I had a beautiful condo, I had a beautiful life, I had great businesses, my family is back there. Like it was a tough band-aid to like rip off and a tough realization that like I'm just not thriving here anymore. I really need to switch up the environment. And I mean, I'm so glad I did. It's the one of the best decisions I've made in my life so far is, coming out here. And also when you find your environment, you'll oftentimes find your tribe. Like I really found my tribe out here in Colorado because there's a reason why people live out here. They love playing in the mountains, they love being outside, they
Yeah.
love outdoor activities. And also I think there's a component of that where it attracts risk takers. A lot of the people out here, the risks that they take in the mountains also carry over to their entrepreneurs, they're risk takers in business. And I like risk takers. I'm a risk taker. So I was able to find my tribe by being out here. So just being mindful, being super mindful. And maybe you need to write out like, hey, this was a perfect day, here's why. This was a shitty day, here's why.
Yeah. That's it's interesting. I once heard someone say that the problem with man is that man does not think.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I love that.
and what you're talking about, like, it's really not rocket science, but if I don't think that many people think, like, spend the time, because when you're saying writing out. Um, do you technically need to write it out? Probably not. You can actually think about it. I think writing out or typing things out. I prefer writing by hand. Really forces clarity, right?
Yeah.
I think when you're thinking, you can make logical jumps and just skip over them. Versus when you're writing, you're not going to.
Hmm.
But what you're really getting at is just like reflect a little, think a little, like don't just go through the motions.
Yeah.
All right, that's really cool. And just look at when you weren't the person you want to be, and we all know that. You know what I mean? Like we all know when we get those like little butterflies of anxiety, and like we're just not ourselves.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, man, that's really interesting. Um, that is pretty cool. Now, let me ask you a question. So this sounds great, but if I was trying to play like devil's advocate, um, there's there's conflicts that come up, right? Hey, Eric, do you want to do this new business opportunity that's
Hmm.
going to likely yield you a lot of money, but take this many hours a day? Um, I'm not looking for like an exact prescription or whatever, but will you tell me a little bit about how you would handle that? Like if some like right now, if someone, had a pretty cool business opportunity, maybe it was strictly financial and you kind of liked it, but it was definitely going to take an hour every single day, 2 hours every day. Like how would you kind of just like take that information in and make a decision?
Yeah, I mean, so with anything, it's reps and sets. I've said yes enough to the wrong things to now know some of the things to say to say no to. And that was just through reps and sets. That was from saying yes to the wrong business opportunities, saying yes to things that trap me into doing things I didn't want to do, to understand like this is not where I'm thriving. This is not where I can provide the most value. And over time I've realized that I love building brands. I love helping brands grow. I love helping them amplify their message. I love, spreading the why for brands, but I don't really enjoy managing people. I don't really enjoy customer service. So, that's how I've landed on where I am now when, I help others build their brands without having to take on the things I don't enjoy and the things I don't think I'm very good at. I think others are much better at it. And I also, freedom for me to live out the structure that I have in force right now is way more important than making more money. So I'm very careful with what I say yes to now, thinking through like where will this put me in 2 years? How much of my time will have to be allocated to sitting in front of a computer, which I don't enjoy doing. Like I want to interact with people. I want to do podcasts. I want to create content. I want to exercise. I want to host retreats. And like all of these things that I've said yes to require you to say no to a lot of other things. So you can only say yes to the things that you're good at. And I think it takes time to fill up your plate with only the right things that you've said yes to. I mean, just like it took me time to, land on where I am today and, being involved only how I want to be involved in community events, in, building brands, but not doing things I don't want to do and don't feel like I can add a lot of value. So that's a long-winded answer of saying reps and sets. You're gonna make mistakes. Like you have to make mistakes to learn who you are and to learn what you really want to do. So, early on, people always say gut feeling. I feel like it's kind of tough to have a gut feeling early on because you haven't had enough experiences in life to understand like where you're going to thrive, where you're going to add the most value, where your skill set is, going to really provide you with the most fulfillment. So I think you just need to like say yes to a bunch of things early on, make some mistakes, and then I mean, the biggest pieces of advice in business I can give people are, early on, if you're doing something that you don't enjoy, which a lot of us are, like my first career, I did not enjoy. It was very much a surviving chapter, but I was lucky that my father pointed me in a direction of building my own business, so building an asset and doing something where I was making residual income. So that's what I always tell young people is like if you're picking a business opportunity where it's probably not where you want to spend your entire life, try and pick an opportunity where you're not just trading time for money. You're at least building an asset and you're building residual income. And in doing that, you're going to place yourself so much further ahead than most. And along the way, I think you're going to figure out like what skill sets you really want to hone, where you want to play, and you're going to design your life around that.
What was your first business?
My first business was property and casualty insurance. So I was driving 50,000 miles a year with a suit and tie on, selling insurance to campgrounds and marinas in upstate New York. I did that from 2002 to 2009.
And it's so funny. I see it in your eyes. You say it like you couldn't imagine yourself doing that nowadays. But
Yeah, I
like you
still have a
said, you
few of those suits from back in the day.
yeah.
They're dusty.
just to remind you. Yeah, I'm on team no suits, man.
Yeah,
I'm,
same, and have
I'm
been for 15 years now.
the, when I quit my corporate job, I grabbed lunch with my boss like 3 months later, and I was wearing shorts and a hoodie. And he was like, I think you at least would throw jeans on for me. I was like, dude, I threw all my jeans out. I was like, I'm not even a
I
jeans guy. I'm like,
love it.
I'm like short sweatpants. That's definitely my style. No, that's really good advice, Eric, because well, first of all, I know you like a lot. You're either basically at one or two positions in wealth, how I look at it, maybe a third. One is I don't have enough to cover what I need. The next is I have enough to cover what I need. And then the next is like I have so much I never need to ever work again.
Yep.
Really, I mean, of course, that third one's cool. We could talk about residual income and stuff like that. But I think really once you're into that second bracket, I think the paradigm really shifts on how you can change the way you're making that money. Because, like, making 100 or 150,000 is not going to change how happy you are at all.
Mhm.
100, 200, it's not. It's more, the way in which you do it and what your life's like. And I really think a lot of people just miss the boat that it's literally impossible to get wealthy without owning assets and having residual income. Like
Yeah.
it's not possible, right? Like you
Yep.
can't make enough hourly. Um, and I mean, like you look at the people that people say they make a ton of money, they actually are most likely getting, bonus based on performance. They do have equity, things like that. Um, and it's really cool how much like you reflect on that. I have a big saying that everything in life is either to enjoy or to learn from, but most are both.
Hmm.
Um, and like, like you're looking at, I saw it in your eye that like you weren't exactly happy reliving those times of driving 50,000 miles a year, but like that, that is, a foundational block to where you are today. And there's no doubt behind that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it built a lot of grit, and I think we're all selling ourselves in some way in whatever we're doing. So, that certainly taught me how to sell early on. And again, I'm super grateful for my father for giving me that opportunity to build character, to build grit, to understand how to connect with people, to understand how to build
Hmm.
relationships. Because I mean, now so much of my business is built around social capital. It's literally just built around connecting people, and
Yeah.
developing relationships with people and, allowing others to develop relationships. So,
Hmm.
yeah, and, it definitely, it was those formative years from 2002 to 2009 where I was able to really hone those skills of connecting with people and building relationships and also connecting people, like understanding, that there's tremendous value in connecting people and the universe is going to reciprocate.
Yeah. Amen. Amen to that. Amen to that. You put good energy, good vibes out there, support people, and it will come back. I couldn't believe in that more. And we live in a lot of us, we naturally live in scarcity mindset, fear mindset, where we need to grab everything we can. And a lot of times it doesn't allow us to naturally live in that generosity, give energy, and it comes back. Be a good
Mhm.
receiver. When someone gives you something, just say thank you with all your heart. That's what I always
Mhm.
say. Um, something that you touched on a little bit earlier was kind of about like obviously how important health and wellness is to you, and I'd like to understand from your vantage point. I think I know why, but why that is the pillar, um besides kind of the obvious stuff, right? Like of course if you're sick you can't work, right? But you've is it fair to say that your own health and wellness is number one priority?
By far, number one priority, and specifically exercise. Exercise for me was the foundation for everything else. So I think that is the most important pillar of my health and wellness routine is movement. Movement is medicine. That's a motto that I live by. And I think a lot of people see fit people and they think, oh yeah, they're doing that for the aesthetic. And that couldn't be further from the truth for me. The truth is the aesthetic is a byproduct of performance. And I'm not talking about physical performance. I'm talking about mental and emotional well-being. I realized that I had so much mental clarity. I was so vulnerable. I was so just emotionally healthy from exercising during those Ironman years that I wanted to reshape my life around these self care protocols because of those reasons. Like, my mind is clear. I'm happy. I'm exuding positive energy. There's obviously physical benefits with it too, of not having a lull in the afternoon where I feel like I need to go to, take a nap. Um, but for those were the reasons why I ended up sticking with my routines. Early on, it was definitely, somewhat ego driven, and I wanted to compete against others and see how I would fare in an Ironman race. But, it really changed after a few years of doing it to being like, damn, this is making me the best version of myself. Like, my mind is just working so well. I'm so happy. I just have so much good energy. So that's why I do it. And again, exercise was the foundation. I have since habit stacked all of these other protocols, the sauna, the cold, getting deep sleep, and massage and moving meditation, which is my mountain biking and trail running. So I've definitely layered on other things, but exercise was the pillar. I really think exercise is the most beneficial thing you can do. And it's funny because a lot of the questions I get asked are, what supplements do you take? And sometimes I just feel like people miss the boat a little bit. I'm like, damn, supplements are just like the icing on the cake. Yeah, it's exercising 3 hours a day that has put me in this position of tremendous energy, attracting opportunities. It's not the supplements I'm taking, and even the aesthetic side of it. It's the exercise. With exercise, you're probably going to eat better, but ultimately, if you're exercising 3 hours a day, I'm burning a lot of calories. If I wanted to go to McDonald's, I wouldn't perform as well, but I could burn through those calories. So it's really the exercise for me that has really led to success in so many different arenas.
Dude, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing it so clearly. Like, exactly what you said. I was reading a health and wellness book that showed this like pyramid, and it showed things at the bottom, and number one was movement, right? Um, Volume of movement, and then it had one for movement, it had one for eating, and the one for eating, like the bottom was calories in versus calories out. The next was your macronutrient intake. The next was your micronutrient intake. The next was your minerals, right? And at the way top was supplements. Not saying they're not important, but like you can have a perfect supplement stack, but if you're 700 calories deficient, you'll never build muscle ever.
Yep.
Um, and it's so funny because what do people ask? You said it. What supplements are you on? Right? What electrolytes do you take? What's your like macro count? It's like, people really are missing the boat because those are easy. Just pop, a pill, have like a powdered drink versus, let's go run for a while. You talked about shaping the mind. And I appreciate the vulnerability around the ego, sometimes getting involved with these races, right? But I'd like to understand your vantage point on goal setting. I think in the mindfulness, I consider this mindfulness, right? You're talking about that, the exercise is for the brain. I consider this like, and you said your biking is like moving medicine. This is all, whatever you want to call it, mental wellness, right? Um, a lot of people in that arena are scared to set goals, right? They think almost like setting goals is counterintuitive. I'd love to know how you think what role goals play um, in kind of like your physical training.
So for me, goals are not all that important anymore. I have a high rocks race coming up in 2 days in Dallas, and I have been training the way I want to train. It's going to lend itself well to doing well at high rocks, but by no means am I thinking about my performance at high rocks in my training sessions. Now it's very much based around enjoyment, progress, and doing what I can do day in and day out to achieve that same mental clarity, that same emotional well being, that same feeling. That's really my goal now with what I do. So it's shifted. In the Ironman days, it very much was around events. Like I wanted to get to Kona. And, all of my training sessions, I was visualizing being in Kona, and I think that led me to get to Kona. I manifested it. And, I guess I don't think about it in the same way I used to think about it. But, having said that, like, what we have here now in Colorado definitely manifested it. The last 5 years, I've been talking about having a place where we could host people to do the things I love. So we have 1,200 square feet of our backyard turfed. We have a full outdoor gym. We have, sauna, multiple cold plunges. We have an infrared sauna. We have red light therapy, PEMF mats. We have every self care biohacking tool known to man here. And I did manifest that. Did I set a goal of like in 2022, I want this? No, but I definitely put that energy out there of like, this is what I want. And I just kind of know if I live my life every day the way I've been living my life the last 5 years, opportunities just continue to come my way. So, that's not setting goals. That's more designing my life in a way where I know I'm going to bump shoulders. I'm going to collect experiences. I'm going to have conversations with people, and opportunities are going to come from the way I live my life. So, that's more how I live my life than thinking about or setting something, intentional in the future. It's more, and obviously it took years to get there where I kind of knew my days that would attract opportunities. So it's changed over time. It's definitely changed over time. I think it's important in stages of your life to have goals and backtrack your way into them. But I also think it's important to, figure out some a daily structure that allows you to be the best version of yourself, and also attracts opportunities into your life, because we all need money to be able to buy food, shelter, and do some of the things we love. So yeah, sauna. So, you can't just like follow your passions and hope it happens. Like, I'm definitely opportunistic. Like, I go to Brian Mazza's HPLT because I know I'm going to bump shoulders with like-minded people, and opportunities are going to come from that. I know by doing these podcasts and by doing Insta lives and by saying yes to lots of meetings that opportunities are going to come from that. So, I'm opportunistic, but not in a way of doing things I don't want to do. I'm doing things I want to do and would probably do them regardless of whether or not at this point they were, attracting new opportunities into my life.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for answering that. That's like obviously like there's no answer to that question, right? I wanted to just hear you kind of go on about it. And what you said was great because it's more about like the day to day journey. I'm finding that with this like 100 miler, like I cannot like I don't want to shy away from it. I'm going to cross the finish line, right?
Yeah.
I signed up for this. My goal is to finish it in under the 32-hour limit. My stretch goal would be under 24 hours. Um, and I'm fine having that goal. But the success, like, I started training for it 4 months ago, but I was already running ultra marathons, so kind of like a year ago. So if we say it's a year ago I started training and I'm, 15 days out, I'm 11.5 out of 12 completed my goal. Like it's been about the 11.5 months I've been training for this, not
Yeah.
necessarily that one day because like, I know that I got my lift yesterday morning and I got my run in the middle of the workday yesterday. Like those are like, I probably wouldn't have ran in the middle of the workday if I wasn't training for this, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it's really all about. It's funny. No, did you ever have any like mantras or anything on some of those endurance events or those Ironmans? Like anything you'd say to yourself?
Yeah. So let me piggyback off what you just said. So for me, things like what you're doing, that 100-mile event, I see that more as obstacles that you place in your life. And I still do that. I'll do the Leadville 100 mountain bike race. Even like high rocks, I look at more of an obstacle than a goal now. Like, I like I like having these obstacles in my life that you do have to backtrack your way into being able to achieve, which is what you're doing. You've had to structure the last 12 months of your life in a way so that you can jump over this obstacle. So I do like that. I think that obstacles each year provide structure, mental resilience, and you can leverage those skills for anything. You can leverage that for a business. It's teaching you structure, it's teaching you to embrace the process, and ultimately, I think you need to enjoy the journey more than enjoying that obstacle, because after you cross that finish line, it's going to be a high for a couple days, but then you're going to be yearning for something else. So you really need to enjoy the journey, and you need to figure out a journey that is sustainable for yourself. um, and then, so for endurance races, yeah, I mean, endurance races are such a unique beast because they're they're kind of equal parts physical breakdown and mental breakdown. And ultimately your mind oftentimes is going to break down way sooner than your body is going to break down. And for me, I used to set these like little mini goals, and I used to like trick my mind into this reward loop. So, for example, the marathon and an Ironman, you swam 2.4 miles, you biked 112. I'm 10 miles in on my marathon, and it feels like I still have half the day in front of me. Like those final 16 miles after doing all of that at the pace and intensity that you're going at is just brutal. And mile 10 on the marathon is where I would start breaking down mind and body. And what I would think about is each mile, I would think about getting to the next aid station and having that cup of Coca Cola, having some food, knowing that that was going to spike my blood sugar and my energy level for just a minute. And I would also think about like after the race, like hugging my mom, the chocolate milk I was going to have at the end of the race, my friends and family cheering for me at the finish line. Um, all of these little rewards I was going to get at the end, and you really have to trick yourself into finishing these things. You have to have these small mini goals, and you have to have these little rewards that you're seeking in order to get each mile. So you're going to go through that with your 100-mile race. You're going to have these times where you're like, why the fuck did I do this? This is so stupid. I hate this. I can quit at any time. I don't need this finisher medal. And you're ultimately gonna brush that devil off your left shoulder, and you're gonna be like, no, I ran 40 miles 4 weeks ago. When I was at 20 miles, it was easy to run another 10. So when you're at 70, you're doing the math. You're like, that's just 3 times 10 miles. Like you keep just tricking your mind into continuing to go, and you're gonna do that. You're gonna be like, I can't wait to kiss my girlfriend at the end. I can't wait to have that chocolate milk or that Snickers bar. Like you're gonna come up with all of these little rewards
I
for
got a
yourself.
bagel sandwich waiting for me.
There you go. Like you got to have these things to look forward to. That's so important because if you don't, you can't just get stuck in your own mud and like mope about what you're doing because it's going to suck in the moment. There's going to be a lot of suck associated with it, and you got to figure out how to get through that suck and be excited to go that next mile.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that, and I like your, I like the little mind games there. You know, um, definitely visualizing the end, right? Like
Yeah.
visualizing the end, and also the way I look at it is like I'm not like, oh, I ran 100 miles, so I can go brag that I ran 100 miles, but running 100 miles is not impossible. It just takes training and discipline,
Yep.
and as much as I've done now, running 100 miles checks the box that the last 6 months I trained hard and was disciplined, right? You know what I
Yep.
mean? And that's really exciting to me. The mantra that I found just kind of on my training runs was, you were talking about like, maybe putting out goals or obstacles that allow you to live the life you want. I realized like my favorite thing, Eric, is to run in the mountains by myself. Like, that's just my shit. And I set this goal so I can, you know, right at 3:30 when this is done, boom, I'm 2 hours out in the woods, right?
Yep.
And like I set this goal to like teach myself, like to like force that upon myself. So I realized that like the mantra when I'm really tired is like this is literally like what I love doing. Like this is
Yeah.
what I love doing. Like and it's a new experience. It happens to be like a new experience, a new maximum. But like like I love running outside, and I've said that on some of my long train runs. It just shapes the gratitude, right? Of
Yep.
like dude, a lot of people can't do that, right? Like how lucky am I to experience this? Like so it's all mind games, all little mind tricks.
It is, and everyone has their own. Everyone has their own. You kind of have to figure out what works for you, but ultimately, it does become that your body is definitely breaking down, but your mind is the one that's going to tell you to quit. It's going to say you got a cramp in your leg. Just you're not feeling it today. Like pull out. So there were very few Ironman or even half Ironman races that I had where there weren't moments when I wanted to quit, and I was finishing like towards the top of these and still, I was like I wanted to quit at different points.
I think that's nice to hear. I mean, for me, but also for people that are like trying to get into anything, even if it's run a mile, run 5K, and that's a big achievement for them. Certainly like knowing that everyone's going through the same shit. Everyone's going
Yeah,
through the same shit.
100%.
Um, Eric, I know we got to wrap up here because I want to respect your cool down time in the evening. If we talk too long, I'll probably see people start funneling in that sauna with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They'll just be like,
Can't
"Oh,
wait to
I
get in.
didn't know what's going on." I was just wondering, you've obviously given a lot on this podcast, so I appreciate you. We talked about the importance of time. You've given up time for this. You've shared a lot of knowledge. Anything that you feel like is something that you've really grasped a hold of that people just aren't getting that you kind of want to share as like a last little tidbit of value?
Yeah, I mean, I did a couple things. So, I think too often we look too far into the future instead of figuring out our perfect day. I think it's really important, Aubrey Marcus, own your day, own your life. Like, figure out like what you enjoy and then build your day around it and then figure out how to monetize it. I think that's such an important key to life. And again, for me, like I'm building my day around what I call tiny wins or things that yield progress. That makes me super happy. And I'm also building my day around people I want to be around and an environment that I want to be in. So we only live once, do it right. And then I think the other message is, just that, all of these self-care routines that we talked about today, exercise and recovery, again, I'm doing them because I want to be the best version of myself. And that's mental clarity, that's emotional well-being, that's, having unlimited energy and exuding positive energy. Those are the reasons why I'm doing it. And I think others can really benefit from, structuring these things into their day and prioritizing them.
Man, I just want to preach what you just said, man. I think a lot of people might think it's elusive for them and not attainable, but please give it a go and give it a real go. Structure your day and stick with it for 6 months, and then come back and DM me or call Eric and let us know it didn't work because we know it's going to work. And I want to figure out how to inspire and touch more people like you do. As I continue to learn, continue to share more and learn from others. But Eric, man, as always, it is just a pleasure to have you, and I appreciate you hopping on today. We'll chop this up for your social so we can impact even more people. And
You the man. I appreciate you, brother. Can't wait to have you out here in Colorado really soon.
I promise it's coming.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. If you got something out of this, it would mean so much if you could just take a second and give us a rating on whatever platform you're watching it on. And it would mean so much to the world if you could just find one person that you think this message resonates with and you can share that with them. Thank you so much for your support. Looking forward to share the next episode with you.